Nunes intelligence information?
I'm not talking about anything.
I have no idea.
Current investigation going on by Chairman Nunes.
Have a good day.
Wow, that was White House staffers.
You don't want to be there. You don't want to be in that spot.
You really don't.
Come on.
And Michael Ellis this morning refusing to answer questions on whether they were the ones who reportedly gave
Congressman young reporters there.
Devin Nunes intelligence on surveillance on Trump Tower. Let's bring in NBC News White House correspondent Hallie Jackson.
Hallie, were you one of the ones? Were you chasing them?
You
no, not this morning.
On the street trolling them?
Two producers that work out of our D.C. bureau had gone, and yeah, you're right. The garage stakeout is a tough.
It's a good one.
Oh, that's a tough one. Did they actually go in the garage?
I can't tell from the video.
Because if somebody went in my garage, their camera would not get out of my garage.
Oh, well, that's yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. But
all right,
no,
so Hallie, please.
Bottom line, though, but the thing is, no comments from either of these guys, right?
Yeah.
That's sort of the bottom line, which is not at all in any way, shape or form surprising. Let's just be clear on that.
Yeah.
True.
Right. You know, the third guy, Ezra Cohen-Watnick, is somebody who you guys have been talking about this morning a little bit. Nothing yet from him on camera. Is the New York Times and the Washington Post report these three names had some potential role in the revelations that Devin Nunes came out and talked about last week. So, you know, there's a lot of intrigue. You can see the Times piece here. A lot of intrigue about who got the information. How did Devin Nunes get this information? The White House, also unsurprisingly, doesn't want to talk about it. You saw Sean Spicer in the press briefing that we were watching yesterday, and he was asked repeatedly about this. Reporters tried to get him on the record about something, because remember, for several days now, Spicer has been saying he would follow up on whoever cleared Nunes in, etc. It has turned into a tongue lashing of the media on why people are focused on what he describes as process and not substance. One of our colleagues from a different network, CBS News, tried to press Spicer on this fact and say, hey, at some point, doesn't all of these connecting of the dots, it might have actually been John Roberts, but doesn't it actually create some kind of substantive concern for the White House, or doesn't it then become relevant to what we're all talking about? And you are hearing the White House publicly, at least, shut down discussion of this. Behind the scenes, there is, I can say, concern based on our reporting about information getting out to reporters for whatever reason it is. Paul Ryan was talking about this a little bit over the last 24, 48 hours or so, and here is how he has described whoever these source or sources are for Devin Nunes.
He had told me that like a whistleblower type person had given him some information that was new, that spoke to the last administration and part of this investigation.
Did you encourage him to then go tell the president about it?
No, but I told him to just add it to his investigation.
Nunes so far has not revealed, at least to our knowledge, his source to the president or potentially to other members of the committee, the House Intelligence Committee. That is based on our conversations with him, with our producers over on the Hill last week.
All right, NBC's Hallie
Tough
Jackson.
producers we have, don't we, Hallie?
Yeah.
Very tough, aggressive producers.
All right.
By the way, at some point, process, bad news for Sean, sometimes process becomes substance.
Yeah.
And when process, when you undertake a process, to deliberately mislead people, and you get a dupe to be part of a process.
Who's the dupe? I was just checking.
Nunes.
I wasn't sure.
Well, it's a long list, actually.
It is a long list.
And not to, I mean, obstruction of justice is also a process.
Yeah,
so, you know, just saying.
By the way, I've got to say, I'm going to read this tweet again, because I think this is actually one of the quotes of the week. Forget the myth the media's created about the White House. The truth is, these guys are not very bright guys, and things got out of hand.
Well,
I don't think you've got Halderman and Ehrlichman
No, you've got people who run country clubs.
No, I don't. I think you've got Abbott and Costello. And you get the guy that's running the Abbott and Costello show. I love this line that you said this morning in Axios. It is the must-read of the morning, every morning.
Mike Allen's here, by the way.
Mike Allen, hey.
Happy Friday.
Donald, yes.
Cutest thing
An
ever.
oldie but a goldie. It's the Carpenters right there. Donald Trump now realizes that his approach has flopped. He feels baffled and paralyzed by how to fix it. Numerous friends and advisors tell us. Dig into that. That's fascinating.
Joe, Mika, I know you're hearing the same thing, that late at night in the White House residence, he is calling his friends of 30, 40 years, a lot of them other billionaires, and saying, what happened. He thought that he brought in people who knew Congress, including the vice president. He thought he had people who specifically knew House Republicans, House conservatives, and it just didn't work. So one person very close to the president told me he's working out his frustration, and the president, of course, likes building analogies, and this person said, the team didn't put the windows in right.
But Joe?
Yeah.
Gene?
Yeah.
Mike? Would this all be happening if he had not tweeted that Saturday morning? Or it would be, right?
Well, yeah,
Well,
because Gene, there was chaos before then.
Exactly.
The problem all
Exactly.
comes down to the fact he doesn't have anybody inside the White House that knows how Washington works. It would be like building a 90-story skyscraper without getting anybody that had ever built a building before.
Exactly. They have no idea how to do this.
Mike?
And look at the way they did healthcare. Look at the way they're really approaching anything that has
How about
And
Twitter?
look how they're still insulting members of Congress who they need for votes.
But mine's related to yours. It might be bigger in that he has no one who will tell him no, and there's no one that he will listen to.
No one.
There's no one what he doesn't want
Absolutely
to
no
hear
one.
and act on it.
And you know, I think that there are some very nice people around him, including members of his family. But I'm sorry, let's just be honest. They don't know what they don't know at this point. Because if they did, they would be telling him to stop on a number of levels because they're seeking advice from the outside. They're getting it, and they're not taking it.
The problem is, along those lines, Mika,
They don't have the
along
spine.
all the lines, is they believe, just like everybody that gets into the White House, that they were the first people to crack the code, that they're smart and everybody else is stupid, and that is why they still think we can do this ourselves. I've got bad news for them. They can't do it without professionals, and 35% will go to 25%, just like I said,
Joe,
45% would go to 35% if they don't bring in people who know how Washington works.
That's a great bite that you had earlier this morning. Somebody said Washington is winning, and it's understandable that they feel that way. The president feels that his approach, the multiple centers of power, the family involved, the lack of accountability, transparency, that worked for him in his business. He thinks it worked for him in his campaign. It ain't working.
No, it doesn't work if everybody is giving you bad advice.
I know,
right?
but
If all these competing senators are giving you competing bad advice, and you're trying to decide, but you have no basis of knowledge or experience on which to make those decisions, there is no way that works.
So, Joe, you say that it happens every time and that everyone comes in and thinks they're the first person. I'm sorry, I think it's very different. We know Donald Trump, and we've seen this happen in real time. We've seen this happen in person. You give someone like Jared, like Ivanka, like anybody in the White House who wants some advice as to how to help Donald Trump be a better president. You give that person the advice, those people completely compute the advice, and then they get in front of him and they can't say it. There's something about Donald's presence that does not allow any advice. It doesn't allow it, even with his family.
So he talks about being a great businessman.
And I've seen it happen.
He was never a businessman, Mike, of a public company where he was the CEO. If he had had board members that he had to answer to over the past 30 or 40 years, he would know how to deal with Congress. He would know how to deal with the courts. He would know how to deal with checks on his power. Donald Trump, I don't know if he's figured it out yet, but we've been saying to him privately and publicly now for 4 or 5 months, the courts will check you. Congress will check you. You can't you can't run over so-called courts or so-called Congress. You can't run over these people. They will cut you to bits. I've warned him about the intel community, and I'm saying that only because I've warned him on this show live at least 100 times about the intel community will chop you up in little bits. And yet, look what happened. They didn't listen to any of the warnings because they were smarter than everybody.
And that's
why even ask for help?
To the business successes. His business had no accountability. You're now in the position of ultimate public accountability. And then you add to that, and we saw this in the video this morning, like even if you give them the benefit of the doubt on everything, which Joe and Mika, you know from your conversations, fewer and fewer people even on their team are doing. But if you give them the benefit of the doubt on everything, they are handling this in the way to create the perception of maximum guilt, to inflict maximum damage on what they're trying to accomplish, and produce maximum distraction.
And what are you hearing about the move, Katie Walsh, Deputy Assistant Chief of Staff, right?
Yeah, so she was Reince Priebus's number 2, his deputy. And she was disgusted with the toxic atmosphere. She wanted out of there. But there were plenty of people, as you all know, in the West Wing who thought she was Reince's spy and are happy to see her go.
Well, I was going to say,
a lot of people out for Reince.
I read a couple. I read a couple of stories yesterday that said, "Oh, they had this meeting, and the meeting was to get her to go out, and she's going to help from the outside." Listen, I don't really know Katie. I've seen her once or twice going in and out of the White House. All I can tell you is that, I mean, we'll just put it out here. You know, she excluded Gary Cohn from several meetings at Reince's behest. Gary Cohn, unlike other White House staffers who sit in their corner and
it gets kind of colorful when things don't go well.
And Gary Cohn kicked down the door and said, "Why was I left out of here?" And you could tell from everything that we heard inside the White House that her days were numbered from that day. Now, I'm sure the White House will deny that, et cetera, et cetera. That's exactly what happened. And what this shows is just reading, not even reading the tea leaves. Reince Priebus and Steve Bannon are increasingly isolated. I think Reince Priebus will survive longer than Bannon will. And you are really seeing Cohn, Dina Powell, Jared, and Ivanka getting stronger and stronger in which way this White House goes.
That would be hopefully good, because maybe they would actually say something.
But the president believes that Steve Bannon holds the keys to 2018 and 2020. He's going to hold those keys.
The president still believes that. You mean for Democrats or for Republicans?
He does not allow any constructive criticism to come his way, ever, from anyone. There is no one who can do it.
That guy does not hold the keys to a scooter. I mean, Steve Bannon. I mean, seriously, this guy is so overmatched.
Well,
let's get him a Vespa.
He's obviously out of his depth. You know, that moment when he went to the Freedom Caucus and said, you know, you have no choice. You have to support us.
Okay.
I mean, there's nothing more guaranteed to get their backs up.
That, and they'll also clean out another bathtub with acid.
All right, let's code name Vespa.
Vespa.
Vespa. Okay, let's go to Sarah.